Okay. There you go. Who would like to volunteer today?
Shall I do it, Prabhu?
Of course you can. Sure, go ahead.
No, no one is saying yes. I waited for 5 seconds.
Sure, Prabhu, go ahead.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati
Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarane
Jai Shri Krishna Jai Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Gadadhar Shrivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda
Hare
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
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 Krishna Hare
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 Ram
Rama
Hare
Hare
Ram
Rama
Ram
Rama
Ram
Rama
Hare
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 Vacha
Kalpatarushesa Vipasidvaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnav
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Vaishnav Jan ki Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
Jai.
Thank you. Okay, so we're recording and I'm going to, okay. Any questions from last week? Okay, all right, then I'll get, yeah.
So I never knew Lord Krishna had children.
Lord Krishna had more children than we can count.
Oh,
So if you know math, take 16,108 multiply by 11. That comes to about close to 200,000.
wow. Oh,
And then each one of them had 11 children each. So it's millions if you include his grandchildren.
wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
never knew. I never knew he had children.
Yeah, yeah. And all in a space of like 30 years. Yeah, very efficient.
Yeah. So Prabhu, Lord Krishna was sorry. This is not related to last week, but he was so Lord Krishna. He lived for how many years?
He stayed in this planet for 125 years.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. That's okay. That's why I'm glad you asked.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome. Very welcome. Anyone else?
Prabhuji,
Haji?
so why 125 years? I mean, like in general, what we know is in Dwapara Yuga, like age of like humans is like 1,000 years, right?
Yes, average age of humans. We're not talking about a human.
Okay.
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 Okay. So basically, Prabhu, but the question is very valid. So Krishna decides how long is he going to stay to do his pastimes. It's totally his decision. When he appears, when he disappears, it's totally his decision. It's not our decision, like when we appear and disappear. But Krishna is totally his decision. So that's all he needs to finish his responsibilities. And then he goes back to another universe to continue the same thing. So he's continuously doing his pastimes.
Okay.
But not necessarily in this universe, some other universe. His pastimes never stop.
No rest.
Never stop. He's the boss, yes. With the sunglasses. Oh, yeah, absolutely. The cool guy.
That means don't always wear sunglasses.
Okay. Anything else before we start?
Here is a carrot from many questions. Too much bad left. The house. Windows.
Okay. All right. Let's get started. So we're going to cover a number of chapters. And interestingly, they're not necessarily in any sequence. But, as you know, Srimad Bhagavatam is not sequential. It's as the topic comes in, as Parikshit Maharaj asks a question, or as something triggers in Shukadeva Goswami's mind, he just starts talking about it. So not everything is necessarily, in a sequence or even in a flow. So one chapter doesn't necessarily continue from the previous one. So this is why tonight you might feel that these are random pastimes. They're not quite random, but it's just a sequence in which they get described. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is a question that Parikshit Maharaj asked Shukadeva Goswami. And he said, my dear Shukadeva Goswami, please tell me the reasons why there was a battle between Lord Krishna and his topmost devotee, Lord Shiva. So, Parikshit Maharaj is basically shocked. Lord Shiva is known as Vaishnava Nam Yatha Shambhu, which means he is the top Vaishnava, topmost devotee of Lord Krishna. Why would the topmost devotee of Lord Krishna fight with Lord Krishna? So Parikshit Maharaj said, please explain this. So then Shukadeva Goswami started to tell the story of a demon by the name of Banasura. Banasura actually was the eldest son of Maharaj Bali of the Vamandev pastime fame. And he was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva actually really liked Banasura. And he favored him so much that even demigods like Indra would serve Banasura. And what happened was that one time, Banasura, who had 1,000 arms or hands, he played different musical instruments with his 1,000 hands all at the same time. So now, can you imagine the skill set of playing, let's say, 500 instruments all at the same time? We had once visited Ramuna Dham, and we met a devotee in the place where Madhavendra Puri was, or his samadhi was there, and he was playing about 5 instruments all by himself, with his knees, with his hands, with his head, with his elbows, and we were impressed. But imagine somebody playing 500 instruments all at the same time. So Lord Shiva was impressed, so much so that he started doing his dance. So Lord Shiva was dancing and Banasura was playing 500 different musical instruments. And so Lord Shiva was so pleased with this that he said to Banasura, whatever benediction you want, ask for it. And Banasura said, all I want is you, Lord Shiva, please become the guardian of my city. So Lord Shiva said, okay, fine. If that's all you want, okay, I'll be the guardian of your city. So one day, what happened was, Banasura was extremely strong. He felt an urge to do the battle with somebody. So he went to Lord Shiva and he said, my dear Lord Shiva, except for you in the whole world, there's no warrior who is strong enough to fight with me. Therefore, these 1,000 arms you have given me are merely a heavy burden on me. So he was boasting. And Lord Shiva didn't appreciate his disciple boasting like that. He said, you've become too puffed. Like in his heart, he said, this disciple of mine has become too puffed up of his strength. So actually, Lord Shiva got quite angry inside when he heard Banasura talk like that. So he told Banasura that, look, your pride will be crushed in battle when you meet my equal. And he said, at that time, your chariot flag will fall to the ground, broken. Well, guess how Banasura reacted to that? You would think he'd be worried, scared. No, he was actually thrilled when he heard Lord Shiva talk like that. He went home, said, great, finally I'll get my chance. And he started to wait for the event that Lord Shiva had predicted, which basically meant destruction of his prowess. But demon being demon, he got very excited about that. Anyway, this Banasura had a daughter whose name was Usha. So once she had a dream in the night, like she was sleeping, and she dreamt that she had a lover with her as she was sleeping. And she had never seen or heard of this person before, but she was really enjoying the association in her dream. And she had this dream a few times few nights in a row. But one night, this lover of hers did not come in her dream. So suddenly she woke up and started talking to herself quite loud, kind of feeling very agitated for him not being there in her dreams. And she said, where are you, my lover? Where are you? And then she noticed that all her maid servants were standing there around her, staring at her. So she got so embarrassed. But she also had a friend in the same room. Her name was Chitralekha. So Chitralekha asked Usha, what was going on in your dream? Who were you talking to? And so Usha told her everything, how this lover was coming to her dream every night, and how she was really loving this. She was really enjoying this. And now he stopped coming. So she said, I really enjoyed his association and now I'm really missing it. So he has gone somewhere, and now I'm feeling so much distress, I want him bad. I want him bad. Even this dream, but I want him bad. So when Chitralekha heard about this dream lover of her friend Usha, she said, you know what? I'm going to remove your distress. She said, if he's to be found anywhere in the three worlds, I'll bring him to you. Don't worry. Just show me who he is. And she started to draw pictures of all the most handsome men in the world, the Gandharvas, the other demigods, other celestial personalities, and a lot of men in the Vishnu dynasty, the dynasty of Lord Krishna. And she said, Chitralekha said, Usha, pick out the man who resembles the person you have seen or you have been seeing in your dream. So when Usha saw the picture of Pradyumna, whom we talked about last week, the son of Lord Krishna, she became a little shy. And then when Chitralekha drew the picture of Aniruddha being the son of Pradyumna, she bent her head down. I'm feeling very embarrassed. And smilingly, she said, he's the one. It's him. It's him. And Chitralekha knew right away that this young man, her friend has pointed out, is Lord Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha. So Chitralekha, she had mystic powers. So she flew to Dwarka, found Aniruddha, and basically kidnapped him, brought him back with her to Banasura's capital. I think the name was Shonatipur or Shonitapur, something like that. Anyway, and she presented Aniruddha to Usha in her private quarters, unseen by anybody else. When Usha saw the man of her desires, she was, you can imagine the excitement she was feeling. So she started serving him very affectionately in her private quarters. And these private quarters were strictly off-limits to men. So Aniruddha was the only man there, and of course, nobody knew. After some time, though, the female guards of the inner palace where Usha lived, they noticed some, symptoms of what you would call conjugal activity on Usha. So they got scared that, if Banasura finds out that we were negligent in our duty, he'll kill us. So they went to Banasura and informed him that, look, something is not right. Your daughter is showing symptoms of being a married woman. So that really disturbed Banasura a great deal. And he rushed to his daughter's apartment and took a lot of guards and soldiers with him. And to his great surprise, he saw Aniruddha there. So the guards immediately started to attack Aniruddha. But of course, Aniruddha was no slouch. He picked up his club and started killing all these guards. But finally, Banasura managed to tie him up with what's known as Nagpash, which is using a snake as a rope. Supposed to be a very powerful weapon. And he arrested him, of course, much to his daughter's chagrin, and took him sent him to jail. So I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions or comments on what we have said so far? Okay, I'll keep going then. So here, back in Dwarka, people are saying, where did Aniruddha go? And then 4 months went by. And now, clearly the family and friends of Aniruddha were extremely distressed and worried. What happened? Well, Narad Muni always comes to everyone's rescue. So he showed up and he told them how Aniruddha has been first kidnapped by Chitralekha and now captured by Banasura. So Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram said, that's not good. So they assembled a very large army and they took their best of the Yadu warriors with them and they set off for Banasura's capital. And they literally laid siege to it, surrounded it from all sides. When Banasura saw that these guys have come in and surrounded my city, he became so angry. And then he noticed that these guys were actually, the soldiers of Lord Krishna and Balaram. They're destroying his suburban gardens and watchtowers and gateways and houses and everything else you can imagine. So he went out to confront them. He took an army of equal size. So, okay, charge, the battle start. And then because Lord Shiva had promised Banasura that he would be the guardian of the city, he came to battle also. And he brought his son, Kartikeya, and of course, all sorts of other soldiers with him to fight with Lord Krishna and his army. And so imagine Lord Shiva coming on his bull carrier, Nandi, and Kartikeya coming on his peacock carrier, and they're all ready to fight. And an amazing, I think the term that Bhagavatam uses, hair-raising battle commenced. And then there were matches. So Lord Krishna matched against Lord Shiva, like fighting directly against him. Vidyumna was fighting against Kartikeya. Banasura started fighting against Satyaki. And Bana's son started fighting against Shamba. Shamba is the son of Jambavati, one of the other sons of Lord Krishna. Now, whenever things like this happen, the demigods become the witness. So they all showed up in their planes from the sky, from a distance, watching this great show, the battle going on between all these people. So, then Bhagavatam describes that Lord Shiva, fighting with Lord Krishna, shot all sorts of weapons at Krishna. But of course, Lord Krishna easily neutralized them all, by using his counter weapons, the appropriate counter weapons, the counter mantras and all that. So for example, it says Lord Shiva actually attacked with a Brahmastra. Lord Shiva used another Brahmastra to nullify it. Then Lord Shiva used a wind weapon and Krishna blocked it with his mountain weapon. Lord Shiva threw a fire weapon and Lord Shiva neutralized it with a rain weapon. Even the Pashupatra, Pashupat weapon, that is a favorite of Lord Shiva in the form of a trident. And Lord Shiva tried even that. But Lord Krishna used his Narayan Astra. So this Narayan Astra fighting against Pashupat Astra. And of course, Naranasna will win. So that's what happened. Then Lord Krishna felt that too much, too much. So he literally bewildered Lord Shiva by shooting him with a yawning weapon. So now imagine Lord Shiva standing on the battle, ready to fight, but he's yawning like crazy. He can't stop yawning because of this weapon that Lord Krishna tried upon him. So as Lord Shiva got busy yawning, Lord Krishna proceeded to strike down Banasura's army with his sword, club, and arrows, and just literally destroyed it completely, killed everyone. On the other front, Kartikeya was, fighting with Pradyumna, and Pradyumna was so much stronger that Kartikeya literally feeling all these arrows from Pradyumna's bow raining upon him from all sides, he fled the battle. So Kartikeya, the general of the demigods, fled the battlefield. And there was blood pouring from his limbs, and just he took off. He said, this is not for me. Anyway, Lord Balaram was fighting with a couple of demons who were friends of Banasura and leaders of the army. I think their name was Kumbhand and Kupkarna. So he killed them with his club. And when the soldiers saw that their two leaders are dead, they just took off also. They didn't want to fight this anymore. They ran in all directions. Now, Banasura is looking at all this. He's noticing everybody's running away or dying. His whole military force is being torn apart. So he said, no, the cause of all this is Krishna. So he left his fight with Satyaki and he charged across the battlefield on his chariot and attacked Lord Krishna. And he was, I think Bhagavatam says, he was excited to a frenzy, like he was in a frenzy. And he simultaneously used 1,000 arms to use 500 bows and shoot 500 arrows. Sorry, actually, no. He fixed 2 arrows on each bow. So he was shooting 1,000 arrows at the same time. But of course, Lord Krishna, broke them all into pieces simultaneously. And he cut the string of all the 500 bows that Banasura was using. And then he struck down his chariot driver, his chariot, his horses, his flag, and everything. And then Lord Krishna sounded his conch shell, the Panchajanya conch shell. Banasura's mother noticed that. Her name was Kotara or Kotar. She was really worried that her son is about to die. So in her attempt to save her son, she appeared naked in front of Lord Krishna. Well, Lord Krishna didn't want to see that sight, so he turned his head down, avoiding any sight of her. And as soon as he did that, Banasura thought that was his chance, and he took off from the city. So now Banasura has disappeared. And then Lord Krishna took on all the ghosts and ghouls that were hoblings, they were, what do you call them? The soldiers of Lord Shiva, and he killed them all. And then Lord Shiva tried a weapon called Jwar weapon. Jwar means fever. So this weapon will cause high fever. Now, the weapon was in the shape of a person, actually, a person with 3 heads and 3 legs. So this Jwar weapon approached Krishna to fight with him. But when Krishna saw Jwar weapon coming towards him, he releases Vishnu Jwar. So now Vishnu Jwara is fighting the Shiva Jwara. So of course, Shiva Jwara was completely overwhelmed by Vishnu Jwara, and having nowhere else to run or go for shelter, the Shiva Jwara got on his knees and he started to pray to Lord Krishna. And he started glorifying Lord Krishna and asked for mercy. So Lord Krishna was actually pleased with Shiva Jwara's prayers, and he promised him that you got nothing to fear. Basically, Bhagavatam said he gave him freedom from fear. At that point, Shiva Jwara bowed down to Krishna and he left. As soon as he left, Banasura showed up again and he started attacking Lord Krishna again, wielding all kinds of weapons in his 1,000 hands. But this time, Lord Krishna said, okay, enough, no more patience. He used the Sudarshan Chakra and started to cut off Banasura's arms. And he cut 996 of those arms. At that time, Lord Shiva, feeling that compassion for Banasura, he approached Krishna and offered wonderful prayers. Lord Shiva recognized Krishna's supreme position in his prayers. And he said, my dear Lord, this Banasura is my very dear and faithful servant. He follows me in every way. And I have awarded him freedom from fear. So therefore, my Lord, please grant him your mercy. Just like you showed your mercy to Prahlad, please show him the same mercy and free him from this fear. So Lord Shiva said, fine. Lord Krishna said, fine, I will spare Banasura's life just because you say so. I said, my dear Lord Shiva, for your pleasure, I have to do whatever you request. And he said, by the way, I fully agree with your conclusion of not killing. So therefore, I will not kill this demon Banasura. But there's another reason why I will not kill him. He said, this Banasura is the son of Virochan, who was the son of Prahlad Maharaj. And I promised Prahlad Maharaj that I will not kill any of his descendants. So therefore, I'm not going to kill him anyway. But now that you're putting your request in, definitely, he has nothing to fear. And he said, I've severed 996 arms of Banasura, but I have left 4 arms. And I did that just to destroy Banasura's false pride. And I have annihilated his army because they had become burden to the earth. But from now on, it's nothing to worry about. And he will be free from old age and death. And he will be fearless in all circumstances. And he will become one of your principal attendants. So Lord Krishna gave that promise to Lord Shiva. When Banasura heard that, he felt assured that he has nothing to fear. So now he came up in front and offered his obeisances to Lord Krishna. And then he arranged for Usha and Aniruddha to come out from their captivity, put them on a wedding chariot, and brought them before Lord Krishna. Krishna, of course, accepted them and then set off for Dwarka. And putting Aniruddha and his bride Usha in the front of the procession. So they were leading the procession. And of course, when they arrived in Dwarka, they were received warmly and honored by the citizens, and great party happened to celebrate the wedding of Aniruddha and Usha. So that's the end of that story. But I don't know how many of you understand what the word Phal Shruti means. Anybody knows? What does the word Phal Shruti mean? It means the result of hearing the story or the pastime. So interestingly, in this chapter, there's a Phal Shruti, and it says, whoever rises early in the morning and remembers Lord Krishna's victory in this battle, this is battle with Lord Shiva, that is, he or she will never experience defeat. Okay, so I'm sorry, I have to mute everybody because I'm hearing some noises in the background. Okay, so now I have a question for you. I mentioned that Lord Shiva is famous as the topmost devotee of Krishna. So why would the topmost devotee of Krishna, who's constantly chanting Krishna's name and serving him, would want to fight against Krishna? And that's the question to you. Can somebody answer it, please?
Prabhuji,
Haji, bolo.
I feel he wants Krishna to be glorified. He wants to show everyone that Krishna is the supreme. I think that was the whole intention of his.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a very interesting relationship between a devotee and Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna does not miss any opportunity to glorify his devotee. And the devotees of Lord Krishna do not miss any opportunity and sometimes create opportunities to glorify Krishna. So you may recall that when the poison was produced during the churning of the ocean, the demigods went to Lord Vishnu and said, help. He could have drank the poison. We said, no, go to Lord Shiva. Because he wanted to create an opportunity to glorify Lord Shiva. So here Lord Shiva is fighting with Lord Krishna to use this opportunity to glorify Lord Krishna, proving to everybody that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And anyone who goes against Krishna will be defeated. So that is Krishna's way Lord Shiva's way to glorify Lord Krishna. And I just see a note from Sonam here, which is correct, that also Lord Shiva wanted to give the pleasure of Viraras, which is the mellow of chivalry, to Lord Krishna, because he likes to fight. And that's the sole reason why Krishna creates demons, because he gets this twitch in his muscles. Yeah, I got to fight. So he creates these demons so he can fight. So same thing, Lord Krishna is saying, I want to give pleasure to Lord Krishna in the mellow of chivalry.
Prabhuji,
Okay.
I have a question.
Haan, bolo.
So we keep hearing that we shouldn't be asking for anything, but these stories, sometimes they have, if you hear this story, as you just mentioned, you will never face defeat, right? So isn't it again encouraging us to, always ask for something or, get something?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question. And so you are absolutely right. We're supposed to be serving Krishna without any cause, which means without asking anything in return, without any material motivation. However, Krishna knows that not many of us are pure. So he wants to encourage us to become devotees anyway. And he said, if I have to bribe you so you can become my devotee, then I'll do that. So this is like a bribe to those of us who are not sincere enough to do this anyway. So he's saying, listen, do this, and here's a benefit for you. So to attract those of us who are not pure. Does that make sense?
Perfect, Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But
Anybody else?
Prabhuji, follow-up question on that.
Bolo.
So in that case, anyway, the forced devotee will not become a pure devotee. Is that true?
Well, the forced devotee will not immediately become devotee.
Okay.
Correct. So, but if the forced devotee eventually develops a liking, then he will become pure devotee. So it's a process, but what Krishna is doing is at least bringing you in. You come in, then we'll see. If you don't even come in, there's no chance.
Okay.
So that's basically what he's doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, all right, then I'll keep going. Now it's totally different story. So I just want to mention that I'm being loyal to Srimad Bhagavatam. So I don't change the order of the pastimes. So whatever order they've been described, I cover them. So sometimes it looks like, as I was saying in the beginning of the class, out of sequence, but it's not that. It's just contextual. So whatever context was there, Shukdev Goswami covered it. So now he's talking about the deliverance of a lizard. And so the story he tells is that Samba, so again, who was Samba? Anybody knows? And how did he get his name?
Son of Krishna.
Son of
only?
Krishna.
I know, but I need to know the mother's name.
Oh.
I already mentioned it's the son of Krishna. Close, but no cigar. Try another wife.
Rukmini.
Huh? Sorry, another chance. Third and final chance.
Satyabhama.
Jambavati.
Jambavati, yes.
Yeah, Jambavati.
Yes. So, and why was he called Samba? Remember, in those days, the quality of the person gave him the name. So what was his quality or habit or whatever that gave him his name? So try to, those of you who know Sanskrit, try to analyze the word Samba. Sa Amba. What does Amba mean in Sanskrit?
Mango?
Sorry? Sorry, Rajan Prabhu? Not Amba. Amba.
Mother.
Mother, yes.
Wow.
Amba. Sa means with. In Sanskrit, Sa means with. So with mother. So basically, Samba, right from the childhood, was always clinging to his mother Jambavati. He was always with her. So people started to call her Samba. Actually, Samb, but in Canada, it's Samba.
Something new.
I'm glad. So one day, Sam and his friends, they went to the forest to play, and they played for a long time. Then they got tired, and they got thirsty. So they started looking for water. So as they were looking for the water, they found a well, and they said, there's water here. But when they went close to it, they found it was a dry well, no water. But inside the well, they found an amazing creature, which was a huge lizard, like so huge that it looked like a hill. So the boys felt very sorry for this lizard, and they tried to pull it out of the well. But they tried everything they could with ropes and leather thongs and other ways, but they were not able to do that. So they figured that no, there's no way they can rescue this creature. So they went to Lord Krishna and told him what had happened. So Lord Krishna said, okay, let's go and see. So he came with them to the well, and he saw the lizard. So just with his left hand, very easily lifted the lizard out. I mean, the person who has a child of 7 years can lift the golden hill. What is this? Nothing. Anyway, so he took it out very quickly. But as soon as the Lord touched him and took him out, the creature, the lizard, transformed into a demigod. So when that happened, Lord Krishna said, hey, who are you? And how did you assume the form of a lizard? It's such a lowly form. So the person said, my dear Lord, my name was King Nrga. I was the son of King Ikshwaku, a ascendant of Lord Ram. And he said, I was famous for giving charity. I gave away countless cows to numerous brahmanas. But on one occasion, what happened was that one of the cows I had already given to a Brahmin. She wandered back to my herd. I was not aware of that. So I gave this cow in charity to a different Brahmin, who was then taking all these cows with him. But when the cow's previous owner, the first Brahmin, saw the second Brahmin taking his cow away, the first Brahmin said, wait a minute, hey, this is my cow. Where are you taking this? And the second Brahmin said, no, I was just given this cow by the king. So what are you talking about? And they started arguing. They quarreled for some time. Then they approached the king. The king is saying, they approached me. So I implored them to please, each one of you take 100,000 cows in return, or I should say in exchange for this particular cow. So one of you keep this cow, the second one take 100,000 cows from me. And he said, either one, you make a choice. Whichever wants to keep this cow, keep it. The other one will get 100,000 cows in return, in exchange rather, from me. And he said, please forgive me for this offense, but this was done completely unknowingly. I did not know this has happened. But neither Brahmin accepted the proposal. The first Brahmin said, I don't want anything in exchange for this cow. And he left. He just went away. And the second Brahmin said, I don't want even 10,000 more cows than you're offering for this cow. And he also went away. And they both left the matter unsettled. Well, I knew that there has been a big offense from me, but very soon I left my body and I was taken by Yamadutas to Yamaraj, who asked me which I prefer to do first, suffer the results of my sin or enjoy the results of my pious activities. And I decided to suffer my sinful reaction first, and therefore here I am in the body of a lizard. So after King Nrga had told the story, he offered his prayers to Lord Krishna, and then a chariot, a celestial chariot showed up, and he sat on this and he was taken to heaven, heavenly kingdom. Lord Krishna then turned around and instructed everyone about the dangers of stealing a Brahman's property. And he said, look, you just seen one incident, and so be very, very careful. Okay. So I'm going to stop, pause, I should say, and see if there are any questions or comments.
Prabhuji, sorry, I just had one question.
Mhm.
Was it actually stealing Brahman's property? I mean, one may interpret it in so many different ways, but shouldn't one be lenient when trying to accuse someone or trying to, especially if you're in a position where you are giving a judgment?
So if you're talking about the Brahmins, they were completely unfair to the king. Complete, like you can't explain that, to be honest with you. You cannot justify that. One of them could have been, as you say, lenient or more merciful or more understanding and accepted the offer. But neither one of them did. That's totally unfair. So this was I would say, in one sense, but let's be very careful. In one sense, it was unfair to the king. In a different sense, what could have been more mercy, a bigger mercy than this, that as a result of that lack of leniency, the King Nrga was actually raised by Krishna's own hands. He got not just a darshan, but the touch of Lord Krishna. So now let's decide, is it fair or unfair, merciful or not merciful, lenient or not lenient, right? But if you just look strictly in the mundane terms, it's hard to understand. Why would a Brahmin do that? And that's where you say, well, Krishna had decided to show his mercy to King Nrga because of his charitable nature. And so he created all this pastime and the mood and the mindset to do this pastime. I think that's the best way to understand it. Okay, makes
Thank
sense?
you, Guru. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then I'll keep going.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I just need one clarification. Like he committed an offense to the Brahmana. So like if after that he's donating so many cows, even that offense cannot be, that cannot be recovered. Is it so? Like the offense to a Brahmana is much more, it's much more powerful than, donating cows and everything.
Yeah, and that's the message that Lord Krishna gave at the end of this pastime to his family and therefore to the rest of us, that this is very serious. We should not steal the property of excuse me. Yes.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay, sure. Anyone else? Okay, all right. So now the scene changes completely. And Shukadeva Goswami starts talking about the time when Lord Balaram visited Vrindavan. So I want to remind you that last week we talked about how much the gopis and the other residents of Vrindavan were missing Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. Well, this week I want to tell you that this was not a one-sided affair. Both Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram were missing their friends and relatives in Vrindavan just as much. And they constantly desired to go back to Vrindavan. However, the Yadus, their family there, prevented Lord Krishna from going back to Vrindavan because they were thinking that Krishna has got all these extremely loving girlfriends who are famous for their pure, ecstatic love for Krishna. Krishna's parents, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya, they're also extremely affectionate towards him. So these people will not let Krishna come back to Dwarka. They'll keep him there. And not only that, they will keep him there, they also knew that Krishna is controlled by pure love of his devotees. So if he goes there to see them, he will himself not be able to leave them and come back to Dwarka. So either way, he won't come back. So they said, Krishna, you're not going. But they were not so concerned about Balaram. They knew that Balaram will go. He doesn't have that much attachment there. He'll come back. So they said, Balaram, if you ever want to go, that's fine. But you're not taking Krishna with you. So one day, Lord Balaram spoke to Krishna with his consent. He went to Vrindavan to see his relatives and his friends. So when he got there, of course, Mother Lohini, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, who had been in great anxiety for a very, very long time, you can imagine the reaction of these three people. They embraced him, they kissed him, they blessed him, they put him on their laps, and spoke with him with tears flowing like crazy. Both Lord Balaram and these three people just crying and crying and crying. And of course, Lord Balaram offered his appropriate respects to these three people, as well as to others who came over, having heard that Lord Balaram was visiting. So according to the age, the nature of the friendship or the relationship, he offered appropriate respects to these people. And, once they were finished asking about each other's welfare, then Lord Balaram rested from his journey because, Dwarka is quite far from Vrindavan. Anyway, very shortly, gopis heard that Balaram is here. So they all came running to where he was staying, and they started questioning him about Krishna's well-being. And they asked, these questions might sound familiar. They asked, does Krishna still remember his parents and his friends? Will he be coming back to Gokul to visit us and them? And they said, for Krishna's sake, we gave up everything. We gave up our fathers, our mothers, our relatives, everything. But Krishna has now abandoned us. And they said, we don't know, but how could we help but put our faith in Krishna's words after seeing his sweet smiling face, being overwhelmed with the attack of Cupid just from seeing him, just from noticing his smile, his eyes, his teeth. And then in a little bit of an anger, they said, well, if Krishna can spend his days in separation from us, then why can we not tolerate separation from him? So there is no reason why we have to talk about him. So let's stop talking about him. We'll talk about something else. So in this way, gopis remembered Lord Krishna's charming talks, enchanting glances, playful gestures, loving embraces, basically all the things that they were doing with Krishna. And when they remembered it, they started doing the only thing they know how to do. Started to cry and cry and cry. Lord Balaram consoled them by giving them messages from Krishna. And basically, when I was reading this, I said, this is deja vu all over again. Does anybody understand that expression? Deja vu?
Something that you feel that you've already experienced.
Yes, correct. And there was a very famous coach of New York Yankees in baseball, who was famous for his malapropisms. So he's the one who said it's deja vu all over again, which is like redundant. But so that's what I was referring to. So what's the deja vu from? What pastime is deja vu of? The gopi-
Uddhava?
Sorry, Sneha?
I'm not sure. Is it Uddhava's
You're absolutely
pastime?
right. No, you're absolutely right. So they were basically talking exactly like that when Uddhava showed up. And they started doing exactly the same thing when Lord Balaram showed up. So it was deja vu all over again of the visit of Uddhava. Anyway, Lord Balaram stayed there for 2 months. And in that 2 months period, he was, sporting with the gopis. Now, not the same gopis as Krishna's gopis, by the way. Lord Balaram's gopis were different from Lord Krishna's gopis. So there was no, Krishna's not here, let's have fun with Balaram. So they're totally different set of gopis. So with those set of gopis who were his set of gopis, Lord Balaram was sporting with them, in the kunjas, the groves, and by the shore of river Yamuna. So one day, they became intoxicated by drinking the Varuni liquor, which is basically a sap from a tree. And in that state, they were wandering around the forest. The gopis and Lord Balaram, they were wandering around. And Lord Balaram got tired and it was hot, so he felt like taking a bath. So he called out to river Yamuna. He said, Yamuna, please come near so I and the gopis can enjoy sporting in your waters. And he repeated that a few times, but Yamuna did not pay any attention, completely ignored Lord Balaram's commands. So Lord Balaram got angry and he said, you don't want to hear to my command? Okay, I'll show you. He took out his weapon, the plow, and with that plow, he started splitting the river Yamuna into hundreds of tributaries. We scared Yamuna so much, literally trembling out of the fear she was feeling. The goddess Yamuna appeared in front of Lord Balaram, fell down at his feet, and started praying for forgiveness. So, of course, the Lord let her go and then entered her waters with his friends to sport for some time. And when they came out, there was Mother Yamuna with all sorts of beautiful ornaments, clothes, garlands as a gift for Lord Balaram. So actually, it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, but even today, you can see these channels of Yamuna that were cut by Lord Balaram's plow, where Yamuna is still flowing. Okay, I'm going to pause again. See if there are any questions or comments. Okay, if no, then I'll keep going. Now, totally different story. It's about Paundrak. Anybody heard that name before? Who's that?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Fake Krishna.
Sorry, say again.
I'm saying he proclaimed to be Krishna.
Yes.
Vasudev Krishna.
Yes, fake Krishna, claimed to be Krishna. That's what my wife was saying from the back as well. So anyway, so while Lord Balaram was in Vrindavan, visiting Vrindavan, there was a king by the name of Paundrak. And he had some real doozies for friends, rascals and fools, as Prabhupada would call it. And they told him that, look, you're the real Krishna, you're the real Vasudeva. Who's this other guy in Dwarka claiming to be Vasudeva? So, King Paundrak got puffed up and started actually believe that he's the real Vasudeva. So he sent a message to Lord Krishna in Dwarka, challenging him. Basically challenging his position, I should say. And the message said, this through a messenger, said, since I alone am the true personality of Godhead, you should give up your false claim to this position. And you should also give up my divine symbols. And you should take shelter of me. If you don't do that, prepare for battle. And I'm going to ask you another question. Do you know any people who do the same thing with Krishna? You're not the God, I am the God. You have no powers, I have the power. Anybody knows of anybody like that?
Vijay, many.
Many, unlimited, unlimited.
Hinirambhu,
Not only those who come right out say, I'm God, like all the Mayavadis, I'm Narayan, Aham Brahmasmi. But also, every time we stand in front of Krishna and tell him, look at my achievements, look what I've done. Or we order Krishna to do this or that, that's what we're doing. We've been Paundrak. So there are many, many Paundraks on this earth.
yeah, millions.
Millions, exactly right. So this messenger went to the Dwarka assembly, and he read it out loud. So King Ugrasen and all the members of the royal assembly, when they heard this foolish boast of Paundrak, they burst into laughter. They had a great laugh, And so Lord Krishna told the messenger to convey a message to his master, Paundrak. And this is what the message said. Oh fool, I'll force you to give up the so-called Sudarshan Chakra and other divine symbols that you boast about, that you have dared to assume my symbols. And when I do that, you will lie down on the battlefield just to become the shelter of dogs. Does anybody know what that means? How does one become shelter of dogs?
Becoming their food?
I'm sorry, say again?
I don't know, by becoming their food?
Yes, absolutely right. That's exactly right. So that means you're dead. And the dogs, you won't even get decent burial. The dogs will come and eat your body. So I'm just throwing some insults his way. So then Lord Krishna went to Kashi, where Paundrak was there. And Paundrak, when he saw Krishna coming, his army, he came out to confront Krishna and his army. And he had a friend, Kashiraj, who came with him. And the battle began. And Lord Krishna literally annihilated the armies of Paundrak and Kashiraj. Like, it doesn't say minutes, but very, very quickly. And then Lord Krishna chastised Paundrak and beheaded Paundrak and Kashiraj with his Sudarshan Chakra and returned to Dwarka. Of course, Paundrak had constantly meditated on the Lord, just like Kansa had, just like Ravana had, just like Hiranyakashipu had. So, of course, he got the liberation, but that's just Krishna's mercy. Anyway, Kashiraj was also beheaded by Krishna's disc, but his head flew into the city at the door of his palace. And when the queens and the sons of this Kashiraj and other relatives, they saw, of course, they were lamenting. But one of the sons of Kashiraj, by the name of Sudakshina, got really upset, and he wanted to avenge the death of his father. So he started to worship Lord Shiva with the intention of destroying his father's killer. So, of course, Lord Shiva is Ashutosh, very easily satisfied, gratified. So he came in front of him and said, okay, what do you want? And he said, I want whatever means I can get to kill the person who has killed my father. So Lord Shiva said, okay, why don't you worship, excuse me, a special type of fire called Dakshinagni. Dakshin basically means the south. So Dakshagni fire, and some black magic rituals are involved in that. And so Sudakshina did that. As a result, a very fearsome demon who had the body of flames, just literally flames erupting out of his body, appeared. And he was carrying a very, again, fiery trident. And upon instruction from what's the name? Sudakshina, he ran towards Dwarka. When the people of Dwarka saw this demon approaching their city, they became terrified and ran to Lord Krishna and said, try mom, please protect us. And Lord Krishna said, don't worry, I'm here. And he dispatched Sudarshan Chakra to fight with this demon that was created by Lord Shiva. Of course, Sudarshan Chakra immediately overpowered this demon, who ran away, returned to Varanasi, which is Kashi, and burned Sudakshana, the boy, the son of Kashiraj, who had started this fire sacrifice, and burned him to ashes. And he burned all the priests who had participated in the fire sacrifice also to ashes. Now, I just want to point out, this is very typical of black magic. That's why it's so dangerous. Because in black magic, if whatever you have created is not able to destroy your enemy, it will come back and destroy you. That's what happened. And then, of course, the Sudarshan Chakra was still following this demon. So he entered the city of Varanasi and burned the entire city to the ground. And then returned back to Dwarka. Any questions or comments before I move on?
He burned the entire city of Kashi.
Mm-hmm.
But Krishna,
Okay, so in the meantime, Lord Balaram is still in Braja, in Vrindavan. So you may recall, I think it was last week that we talked about Lord Krishna killing another demon by the name of Nrga, who had a friend. His name was Dvivida. Dvivida was an ape who was also present during the pastimes of, fill in the blanks,
Krishna and Gopi.
Lord Ram. Yes. Yes, Radhan Prabhu, you are right. You are mute, but I could read your lips. So, and he had offended Lord Lakshman. So basically what happened was, when Lord Lakshman got hit by the arrow of Meghnad, the son of Ravan, he said, what kind of God is this? He can't even tolerate one arrow. Even I'm stronger than that. So that was the offense he had made. And so therefore he got into association of demons, including Nrga, and now he showed up in Vrindavan to avenge the death of his friend Nrga. And he came there and started to set fire to the homes of all these Gwalas, the Gopas and the Gopis, and caused also flooding, by churning the water, with his mighty arms. And he also did the same thing in Dwarka by churning the ocean with his arms. Anyway, he came to Vrindavan and started tearing down the trees and all the ashrams of the great sages, and was passing stool and urine anywhere there was sacrifice going on. He started kidnapping men and women and putting them in caves and blocking the exit with huge boulders, things like that. Just total disruption. And then he was kidnapping young girls, polluting them that way, and finally he came to this mountain where Lord Balaram was with his gopi friends enjoying their company. So Dvivida came there and completely ignored Lord Balaram, who was kind of intoxicated by the Varuni liquor anyway, and he started to misbehave with the women that were with Lord Balaram, right in front of them. And then he started making crude gestures with his eyebrows, and same thing, started passing his stool and urine right in front of them. So, this is outrageous, right? So Lord Balaram got really angry when he saw this outrageous behavior by this ape or monkey, Dvivida. So he picked up a stone and threw at him. But Dvivida was pretty good. He dodged it and he started to ridicule Lord Balaram. And he started to tug at the dress of the women. That just became too much audacity for Lord Balaram. He said, okay, enough, time to kill you. And he took out his club and the plow and rushed towards Dvivida. Well, Dvivida didn't have any weapons, so he pulled a big tree from the ground, and with the tree he struck Lord Balaram on the head. Well, it didn't even shake Lord Balaram. He wasn't moved at all. And he basically smashed the tree into little pieces with his club. So Dvivida uprooted another tree, and then another tree, and then another tree, then another tree, until there were no trees left in the forest. And he used them all to hit Lord Balaram, but nothing happened. He would strike Lord Balaram on the head, one tree after another. But Lord Balaram will just stand there and break these trees into pieces, millions of pieces. Then this Dvivida started throwing stones. Stones, not pebbles, but huge boulders that you and I can't even move half an inch. He was picking them up and throwing them at Lord Balaram, one after the other, very quickly. So, of course, Lord Balaram was crushing them, literally pulverizing them to powder with his club. So finally, there were no stones left, there were no trees left. So Dvivida charged towards Lord Balaram, and he hit him on his chest with his fists, which really infuriated Lord Balaram. So Lord Balaram threw his club, threw his plow on the ground, and struck Dvivida on the throat and his shoulders. And that was just it. One blow was enough. The ape Dvivida fell down dead, basically, vomiting blood and all that. He was done. And after a little while longer, the Lord Balaram said, okay, I'm done. And he went back to Dwarka. Okay, I'm going to stop here again and see if there are any questions or comments. No? Okay, all right. Keep going. Now we'll talk about the marriage of Shamba, the boy who stuck to his mother to get this name. So, Duryodhan, everyone remember Duryodhan, right?
Yes.
Yes. So he had a daughter by the name of Lakshmana. And she was marriageable age, so a swamvar ceremony was arranged for her. Now, Shamba liked her, but she didn't care for him. So when Sam heard that this swamvar happening, he showed up there. And went to the swamvar and kidnapped her against her wishes. And started to take off. When the Kauravas saw, they said, what's this nonsense? Somebody from the Yadu dynasty is coming, and they consider Yadus to be lower than them. As a matter of fact, they said, we are the ones who made Yadus the kings. So how dare one of the Yadus come and kidnap our daughter? So 6 of them, 6 warriors like Karna, Shal, Bhishma, Duryodhan, they all got together, and they started to fight, simultaneously with one warrior. So 6 against 1, fighting against him. And Sham was no slouch. He was fighting back, but it's hard to fight, 1 against 6. So finally, they broke his chariot, they broke his bow, they seized him, they tied him up, and brought Lakshmana and Shamba back to Hastinapur, put them in prison. Well, Narad Muni showed up in Dwarka, gave them the news. Hey, guess what has happened to Shamba? So Ugrasen was very, very unhappy when he heard that. So he called upon the other Yadavas and said, let's retaliate, let's go and attack the Kauravas. How dare they capture one of us? But Lord Balaram came and said, no, listen, no need for that. Let me go and fix the matters. So Lord Balaram said, no need to fight, let me go. And let's avoid this fight between the Kurus and the Yadavas. And so Lord Balaram took a few senior Yadavas or Yadus and a few more Brahmins, and started for Hastinapur. They got there and they set up a camp in a garden just outside the city. And Lord Balaram sent Uddhava, who had come with him, to Hastinapur to the palace to see, hey, find out what the frame of mind of Dhritarashtra is, who was the king at that time. Find out what he's thinking. So when Uddhava showed up in the court in front of Dhritarashtra and others in the assembly and announced that Lord Balaram had arrived, the Kauravas were very happy. They actually worshipped Uddhava. And they, with great amount of respect in their mind, they went to see Lord Balaram. And they took all sorts of auspicious gifts for Balaram to offer him. I mean, they had a lot of respect for Lord Balaram. So they went to the camp where Lord Balaram was staying, and they did all sorts of worship and rituals. They offered him, gifts of respect, let's call it, But when Lord Balaram said that King Ugrasen has demanded that you release Samba and send his wife with him, well, the mood changed completely. Suddenly, from being extremely respectful and in a worshipping mood, they became angry. And one of them said, how amazing that the Yadavas are trying to give order to the Kauravas. It's like a shoe trying to climb atop one's head. The shoe belongs on the foot, not on the head. And this person said, it is from us alone that the Yadavas have obtained their royal throne. And now they're assuming themselves to be equal to us. Forget it. We will no longer extend them any royal privileges. Like, how audacious is that? They're talking like that to Lord Balaram. And they said this and they left and went back into the city. Well, Lord Balaram doesn't take this kind of nonsense. So he said, the only way to deal with these people who have become too much puffed up, who become almost like mad by the false prestige they have got or they think they've got, the only way to deal with these people is brute force, brute punishment. Okay. So he took his plow and he said, I'm going to get rid of this earth, of all the Kurus. And he started to drag the whole city of Hastinapur toward the Ganges. Now, can you imagine being in a city which is being dragged? I mean, you ain't seen no earthquake like that before. This is not the earth tremors of scale, Richter scale of 7.8 or 8.9. This is like 1,000 on a scale of 1 to 10. Anyway, so when they saw the city was being dragged like that and was in imminent danger of drowning or falling in the river, they were so terrified. They quickly brought Samba and Lakshmana before Lord Balaram and began to glorify him. They said, oh my Lord, please forgive us. We were so ignorant of your true identity that we have misbehaved towards you. So please, 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 please forgive us. So Lord Balaram, being merciful, he said, no problem. I will not harm you. Don't worry. And Duryodhan presented Lakshmana and his, the new son-in-law, Samba, with all sorts of wedding gifts and extended his greetings to the Yadavas and requested Lord Balaram to please return to Dwarka with Samba and Lakshmana. So they did. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, then I'll keep going. Now, Narad Muni is watching what's happening in Dwarka. But Krishna has gotten married to 16,108 wives. He has expanded himself into 16,108 forms and is spending time individually and separately with 16,108 wives, 16,108 separate palaces. Simultaneously, he's not moving fast. He's there all the time. So Narada said, I need to go and see what does the Lord do in this unique situation. So he went to Dwarka and he entered one of the palaces, which was actually the palace where Lord was living with Mother Rukmini. And he saw that Mother Rukmini was personally serving Krishna in the most menial way, even though she had literally thousands of maidservants, literally thousands of them. But she was doing all the menial work for Krishna. As soon as Krishna saw Narad, he got up from his bed. He offered his obeisances, gave him his own seat to sit on. And then Lord washed Narad Muni's feet. And he took the water that had been used to wash his feet and sprinkled it on his own head and the heads of the family members. I mean, unbelievable that the Lord would do that. So anyway, Narad Muni had a conversation with the Lord for a little while, and he left to visit the next palace. And in the next palace, Narad Muni saw Lord Krishna playing the game of dice with his queen, and Uddhava was present as well. So Uddhava and Lord Krishna's queen and the Lord were playing the dice game. So Narad Muni saw that, then he went to another palace. In that other palace, Krishna was coddling his infant children. In another palace, Krishna was preparing to take a bath. In yet another palace, Krishna was performing fire sacrifice. In another one, he was feeding the Brahmanas. In another one, he was eating prasadam. In another one, he was performing the noontime rituals. In another one, he was chanting Gayatri Mantra. In another one, he's sleeping in his bed. In another one, he's consulting with his ministers on some royal matters. In another one, is playing in a pool, swimming pool with his wife. In another one, he was giving in charity to the Brahmins. In another one, is joking around and laughing with his wife. In another one, he was meditating on, of course, Super Soul. In another one, he was serving his guru. In another one, he was arranging for marriage of his son and daughter, or sons, I should say, sons and daughters. Another one, he was going out on a hunting expedition. And another one is going out of the palace in disguise to see what the citizens are thinking about him. And basically, like in every palace, Lord Krishna was behaving like an ordinary householder.
Different activities.
And householder, doing different activities. A householder who's deeply concerned with economic development, sense gratification, and religious duty. So, dharma, artha, kama, dharma, artha, and kam. Just like ordinary householders do, Krishna was doing all that. So when Narad Muni saw that, he talked to Lord Krishna. And he said, "My Lord, I have served your lotus feet for so many years, so sincerely, so I can understand the varieties of your Yogamaya potency. But the ordinary people cannot even begin to comprehend what's going on here." So he said, "My Lord, I'm the most fortunate. Now I simply desire to travel all over the three worlds, just chanting your glories, chanting the glories of your pastimes, which purify all the worlds. So please give me permission to do so." When Narad Muni spoke like that, something very interesting happened. Lord Krishna noticed that Narad Muni was feeling some distress. And he figured out that Narad Muni is feeling distressed because he has seen him, the Lord, worshipping the demigods. And the Lord worshipped even Narad Muni. So he explained that to Narad Muni. He said, just like I told Arjun, when he was referring to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 21, Yadyat Achat Sheshtas Tatat Evatarojana. Whatever a great person does, ordinary people follow suit. So he said, just for that, I bathe your feet today in order to help propagate the principle of religion, which is that when a Brahmin or a devotee shows up at your house, you must offer all the proper respects to that person. And he said, Narad, don't think that you have committed an offense by letting me wash your feet. I take the water as a, as a holy remnant put on my head. He said, just like a son does not offend his father by touching him with his foot while sitting on his father's lap. So you should understand this in the same way. And that Krishna said, my son Narad, you have not offended me at all. So don't you worry about it. So I want to pause and make a couple of points to make sure that it's very clear. One point is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he was engaged in his so-called household affairs simply to teach people of this world who are attached to material existence how one can sanctify one's household life by following the principles of religion. And of course, like you know and I know that if the household is Krishna conscious, the household is already sanctified. You no need to worship the demigods. So he's talking about people who are not Krishna conscious, just ordinary people. Second point, that we should understand that all the activities in the 16,108 palaces that the Lord was performing were done by the Lord's single spiritual form, which manifested in 16,108 places at once. So basically what used to happen, and I'm going to mute everyone. Basically what used to happen was that 16,108 chariots will come out of those 16,108 palaces with one Krishna sitting on each one of them. And when they got to the royal road, Highway 407, then all the chariots will merge into one, and one chariot and one Krishna will show up at the door, Sudharma courthouse. However, all the people of Dwarka never saw 16,108 Krishnas. They could only see one Krishna in the particular part of the city they lived in. Even if they traveled somewhere else, they would not see Krishna. They'll only see the Krishna who was in the city that they lived in. So Narad Muni saw, I should say, Krishna revealed this vision to Narad Muni because Narad Muni had the desire to see this, and the Lord had the desire to show it to him. That's why Narad Muni was able to see different Krishnas in 16,108 forms, but still be able to realize that it's the same Krishna. So basically, Lord was giving Narad Muni a special view of his pastimes. So that's the end of this, but there's a Phal Shruti for this one also. And it says, the person who recites or hears the accounts of these pastimes will certainly be engaged in Krishna consciousness and taste the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So I hope that you have all heard this with care, with attention, because the guarantee is being given that you'll be engaged in Krishna consciousness and one day soon taste the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord.
Not only we heard it, but we enjoyed it too much.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. So
it was so interesting, Prabhu. So interesting.
Thank you, Prabhu.
The way you explain it, it's very
explain is very nice.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
This book is finished.
Hmm?
This book finished part 3rd, now started 4th.
Okay, so I don't have it that way, but anyway, yeah, so we finished chapter 69 today.
Yeah.
And So we'll continue with that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I think that's my clue to say thank you very much.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mancha
Hare
kalpataru
Krishna.
kripa sindhu
Thank you for
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
everyone.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hare
Hare Krishna
Thank you.
Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Ram.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vasha Kalpam
Mancha kalpataru kripa
Padru
sindhu
Shakapasundhu Deva
Jai. All the bhaktas ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.